Girls of Reddit, what is it like to be horny from a girl's perspective? You know that feeling you get in your chest when you drink something warm on a cold day? I feel like that, but in my pelvis. So I start off just getting a little bit flushed. I feel mildly hotter all over my body and I start to get really aware of how soft my skin feels. A mild touch of my hand on my thigh might send me shivering. I often rub my thighs together if I'm in public to alleviate the need to move, but it pretty much ends up with me getting hotter. I can feel myself start to throb and my breathing starts to fluctuate. Then the thoughts start coming. Every hot situation you've been in, all the guys you thought were cute, and all the fantasies you've been having lately. I often find myself thinking about a fantasy and have to abruptly stop, or I'll get really frantic with the need to have a sex. Something that always happens is the need to be filled. I can't describe it, but I just feel empty and want something in me sliding. Even if you take care of yourself, you can still feel the echoing throb, the clenching of your muscles wanting to pull something inside of you. There also you get really wet. A heat flows down there. My clit tingles. And, bear with me now, I feel empty. It's hard to describe, but my V physically feels empty, like it needs to be filled with something. It's probably not the best idea to read the comments while I'm at work, feeling a bit hum. Am I the only chick here who doesn't like the it analogy? That sounds gross. To me, it's more like this achy, throbbing desire for pressure on the outside parts, and the feeling of needing something in me to grip on. Damn it, now I'm horny. It's kinda like, hey, I kinda wanna have a sex. Then after a while it's like, yeah, a D around here would be pretty great. Then a while later it's like, that dude probably ducks really good. I want to duck him. Then finally, for the love of all that is holy, I want to duck anyone. Okay, it's like this. You're a little hungry, and there's this burger joint right down the street. Not a ritty McDonald's or something gossip, this high-end classy burger joint where everything tastes like heaven. You're not hungry, just enough to notice it. But when you do, you start thinking about that burger place, and it make you hungrier, and you start to feel that emptiness in your belly, and you're like, man, I could go for a burger. So either A, you go get your burger and it feels so juicy and good and you feel full and happy afterwards and you get all fat and lazy, or B, you ignore it, eat something else and it's okay but it's not nearly as satisfying. Mostly, for me, anyway, horny is about scratching that itch and getting that fullness and satisfaction and all the happy hormones. Turned on is a whole different thing altogether and requires intimacy or mental stimulation. Looks like I came too early yet again. I saw this thread and thought I was born for this because I have the biggest sex drive of anyone I know, but then I realized I didn't have anything interesting to say that hadn't already been said. Clit gets bigger, feels more sensitive, and warmth from the rush of blood. Sometimes I can feel my pulse through my V, which is cool. A lot of people are describing it as a tingling or warm feeling, but I tend to experience it as almost like the feeling of having an itch, but instead of needing to be scratched, you want pressure. I also find that if I see something erotic, I feel a pulse throb. Women of Reddit, help me masturbate PLS, thanks. It's like an itch that's impossible to scratch. It starts with my clit feeling itchy, like it needs a thumb or a tongue or a D on it. Then the sensation builds and builds to where I must have clit scratching. It's more a void to be filled than anything else. And once that void is filled, I want more. I want to be ducked, and flipped over, and ridden hard. I want to be used. I want to be violated in the most ducked up ways possible. And then, after everything comes galloping to an orgasmic end, I just want to be cuddled, hugged and felt safe and warm, and that's all. Maybe have my back scratched, in exchange for back scratching. My nails aren't long, but they're scratchy. I want a man who appreciates that. Not gonna lie, me in this thread. Come on, username. Don't let me down here. You know that feeling like you're going over a hill and you get that swoosh feeling in your stomach? It's like that, but in my pants. Well, seeing as I'm currently experiencing it now, I'll try to explain. I'm sure every girl is different though. It starts as a really warm tingle across my entire pelvis. Everything becomes hypersensitive. Any touch across the back of my neck or stomach will make me groan and shiver. I want to be touched, caressed, spanked, and licked all over my body. The hornier I get, the more the tingle changes into an ache. I want something in me and I want it now. By this stage, I'm just soaked. I love to be teased. Tease me and I'll absolutely beg to get ducked. It's the most frustrating, arousing, hot feeling ever. And the moment when he first slides inside you with no resistance because you're just so wet. MMMH. I'd like to thank the OP. I shared some of these responses with my wife, and then she started getting horny too. Thinking about other girls getting horny, we just had the best morning sex we've had in a long time. Kudos. OP. It sucks because you can use toys or items to help it a little, but usually, at least in my case, it's a constant want to just get ducked. It's like something just clicks when you're near someone attractive and all you can think about is them naked on top of you thrusting. Graphic, I know, but it's difficult to handle. Sometimes I have so many other symptoms going on that I don't even realize it's horniness. I get very antsy. I just want to go on an adventure. I want to eat good food, drive fast, do something exciting. Then when I finally have a sex, I'm like, oh, that's all I needed, and I can finally relax. Better question, are you ever horny enough to duck a guy you wouldn't normally duck? Like, if a cute guy makes you horny, but he leaves before you can do anything, and a non-cute guy is there and you're still horny, would you duck the non-cute guy just to get some? Because that's how horny guys get. Tingly and wet. When you want to touch yourself but can't because you're in class is the worst. Rubbing your thighs together just give you a tiny pleasurable sensation. I don't know how to describe it from memory. Not horny right now. I guess I get pretty sensitive down there and have the urge to hump rub against anything. I also get butterflies in my stomach. I feel like I have to pee, but it feels better not to. Before I had sex for the first time, it was just a pleasant hot, tingly, throbbing feeling. After I had sex and figured out how to do it so that it felt amazing, being horny included desire to be penetrated and filled, where before I could only imagine what it felt like, although I never gave it much thought honestly. Sometimes things are a little different. For example, while giving head, I am not feeling that throbbing feeling constantly, although I am very turned on during. I feel a rush of heat if I hear a moan or he gropes me. By the time I am done giving head, I am extremely wet, although I hardly notice until he is sliding it in, because I was focused on my task. It's almost like a shock at first, and your lady parts get all warm and it's almost like you can feel your heartbeat between your legs. Your face gets flushed and the warmth gets more intense. You get all squirmy. You just want this desire to be filled. A little bit like when you have to pee really bad and you know the bathroom is right down the hall. Eventually it's all you can think about and you just want a dude, or lady, if that's your thing, to get down in there. It's a pretty great feeling. And unlike a boner, it's pretty hard for people to tell when you're turned on. Well, it's different for everybody. Plus I'm on the fence about what I identify as. But meh, I've always just felt warm, V-wise, and it just kinda spreads to everywhere the longer it goes on. You know the weird feeling you get when you have goosebumps? I get that on my thighs, waist, and have this desperate need to be touched. It's even better when I'm already cold because then I just start imagining how warm and snuggly it would be to have somebody hold me or something. And it's just like Duckman, I don't even care about who it is anymore. Just do it. It also happens very randomly for me. Thinking about kissing does it. But most of the time it's just V no, but then V's all like V yes. Ah cute, how I are cute. And I end up getting horny at very awkward times. Then I remember that I'm single and eat some cheesecake because being horny makes me very hungry. It almost feels like a pressure above the clitoris. I don't really feel any tingling, but I can feel how sensitive I am by walking or even sitting a certain way. Eventually, if there is no D wandering around, I am able to take care of myself 3-4 times. It's like blushing between your legs. So, if I learned anything from this thread, it's that I should look for squirming women who look anxious, obviously followed by a tip of my fedora, right? Do females rub one out and then have the same "how did I get here" thought process in their refractory period? I love reading these comments with the sentence needing to be filled. As a hetero turned B turned lesbian, as you do, Even with a guy I didn't necessarily have a desire for something to be inside me. For me, when I'm gearing to go, it's just a real want of intense kissing in their body on mine. Just contact, I suppose. But generally when I'm horny I suddenly have flashbacks of every sexual situation past 6 encounters, thus leading my nether region to feel all tingly. I wish we knew which of these girls were hot and which ones are just men. Incoming. Lots of female fapping tonight because of this thread. If Reddit were a real place, I'd bet we'd all be ducking each other. For me, it's the feeling of wanting to be filled so badly that it hurts. Like, it physically aches from how badly I need it. And the feeling of wanting to be touched is overwhelming. And craving the weight of a man on top of me. This is really sad, but I've been single for a while. And sometimes it gets so bad, overwhelming, that I'll actually cry. Oh god, now I've made myself sad. For me, it starts as an overall tingling sensation in the pelvic region. There is increased wetness that can be felt. At this point, an overwhelming need to have something. As a straight woman, cannot speak for others, this is the point where I feel an overwhelming need to have a D inside me. Whenever I am actually horny, a vibrator will never suffice. It feels like the throbbing feeling in your V is the only thing you can focus on. If someone could link me to other hard-on inducing AskReddits, that would be great. It's kind of miserable, to be honest. Like many others have said, the physical sensation varies. But usually it'll start as a warming sensation either in the pit of my stomach or between my legs. But then the mental side starts to get involved and hormones start flowing and I feel itchy and desperate. It's like being absolutely starving. Haven't eaten in a day, and standing in the middle of a buffet. There's a need for extreme action. For extreme behavior. And anyone who denies the pleasure is at risk of being run the duck over. I'll get grouchy and irritable and irrational. All the while getting wetter and hotter. After a certain point of stimulation. Physical or non-physical. My V walls will actually cramp from clenching so hard and my clit will be throbbing like there's electricity attached to it. At that point, it's uncomfortable and only a cold shower will work unless I'm getting laid. And even then, Thessex won't be satisfying. It'll barely take the edge off, so then I can actually be really satisfied. But at that point, he's usually done and I'm left frustrated. If I manage to bust a couple nuts solo or with a partner before I'm horny for too long, it's okay. But otherwise, it's a ducking problem. It's a slow build up. It just starts as a slow dull pulse combined with a pleasurable ache that starts to put pressure on your clit. It starts to build. The pulse turns into a teasing throb. You can feel the slickness building. You can't move in your seat without having the urge to continue to grind down to get some relief. It just gets more intense, builds, and won't stop until you finally get a much needed release. I feel the blood rush to my pussy every time I can detect a hint of a D through a man's pants. I start to imagine what every guy would be like to duck. I soak through my panties, find somewhere to masturbate, come in 45 seconds. For about a week of every month. It's that intense. When I get horny, it's not just a feeling in my pelvis. I also desperately want my boobs to be played with too. I want to feel them bounce around or get sucked or groped. They get all sensitive and my nipples get hard. If they actually get touched, it is the best feeling ever. Chills throughout entire body. I want that just as much as I want to be filled. Sigh, I need a boyfriend. I get really wet. I hate that word, but it's true. Sometimes even holding my boyfriend's hand leads to me having to change underpants. I'm talking like, I went to the doctor because it's an abnormal amount and I thought that there was something wrong with me. I find it horrifying, but every guy that I've ever been with thinks it's like the ducking holy grail of veal lubricant. I'm extremely sensitive down there. So my vulva gets super hot and I throb to the point where it starts to feel really amazing. Almost the exact amount of pleasure I get from actual sex. Honestly, I can have an orgasm just by doing Kegels whenever I get horny. So for me it's intense as all hell, and usually pretty embarrassing. I feel like everyone around me can sense some awkward reaction from me since it's such an overwhelming feeling. It tends to be different from girl to girl, but the best way I can describe it for myself is the cliche itch analogy. It's this nagging thing that doesn't go away, and sometimes you can completely ignore it, while sometimes it's almost unbearable. Sometimes you bring it on yourself by even thinking about it. But I'm almost always at least a bit horny. So it's like how you'll notice you're almost always a little itchy. You can just push it to the back of your mind until it's brought up. The best thing about being a girl is by far being able to be horny as it and have nothing physical to hide. This is actually a really enlightening thread. I feel like I am learning things that provide a lot of insights into past events and relationships with women. I can't believe I'm seeing so little throbbing. There's throbbing and probably some tingling. I can often feel my clit come to life. For me, it starts deep in the pit of my stomach. It feels sort of like the normal butterflies in your stomach, but much more intense. An unceasing tingling. It spreads down to my clitoris. Along with the tingling is this heat that spreads throughout my body until my ears are burning and I know I'm blushing. It is exquisite torture. My pussy literally throbs. Bum bum. Bum bum. Jesus Christ. Till women get boners. All the time. After seeing these replies, I've come to the conclusion that I really need to find out the telltale signs of when women are horny. V. Wet. Brain. Wanting to duck stuff. My friend and I have come up with a simple way to describe when we are feeling horny. The heartbeats. Yes. It feels like my heartbeat has, rather quickly, moved from my chest to my clit, and there's a very real pulsing feeling and the only way to satisfy it is stimulation. Also, at this point I just want something inside of me. I become very intensely aware of my hollowness and it's basically like, hi get an ME now PLZ. Hence why the first entrance, if you will, is unreal. It's too bad that we're describing this like we're writing a terrible romance novel. It's like warmth that comes over me that spreads into my lady bits with a tingly sensation. Nope. Did he also stab you with his unsheathed sword while you felt warm honey flowing through your virgin body? Probably not. Also, someone here said men are turned on by what they see and women are turned on by touch. Also nope. The world is not that black and white. When I get horny I can feel the muscles in my pelvic area tighten. If I'm especially excited, it's probably because I'm anticipating something that is going to feel great, but the tightness usually comes on when I'm bored or I see something, or think about something I like. If I move beyond the stage of initial arousal, things get more interesting. I'll start feeling attracted to nearly anyone nearby. There is a heaviness that develops where the tightness was and blood rushes to my V. Up until a certain point, the feeling is controllable. I don't feel like I have to do something about it. But at some point if I don't get to come, I feel awful both physically and emotionally. Oh. And having mucus secretions from my vag is both a blessing and a burden. It starts off with tingles in my clit that slowly makes its way up to my nipples. It's barely noticeable, almost like a hum in the background. If I'm in front of a guy, sometimes it makes me want to stretch in a seemingly innocuous manner, but what I'm really doing is stretching my top taut against my breasts and hard nipples. If I'm standing, I clench my thighs together to squeeze my clit, and the slight pressure feels good enough to make me want to moan a little. If I'm sitting, I cross my legs and start sliding my ass around the seat very slowly, almost as though I was grinding the chair. I start getting wet and my mind starts conjuring up fantasies, usually of someone grabbing my hips and sliding their D in. If I'm sucking on cock, that just makes me feel wild and dirty and very slutty, and all I want to do is to grip the cock hard and go to town. There is this enthusiasm that really can't be faked and a drive to turn the man on. If I'm about to duck, my pussy is drooling, and I feel this heat and physical ache to be ducked. My clit is swollen and throbbing, and I can feel each pulse and flutter. My nipples are hard and all I want is to be filled and stretched out. If I'm ducking, then I want to ride hard. Get the cock as deep in myself as I can. Have the man's hands on my hips gripping me tight. And I want to be owned and ducked hard until my pussy is clenching and coming all over a hard cock. Since I know you're headed there next, I'll save you the trouble. Am I the only one who wants to duck anyone I find attractive? It's like, for me, feeling this intense desire for hands to be on me, I have a tingle, an insatiable feeling. Almost a slight vibration between my legs. It makes me restless. My need for intimacy. My need grows rapidly. My texts become more provocative. I need something inside me. Not a girl, but my friend's brother's dog's vet's second cousin is a girl, and It's an urge, like an itch you can't ignore, a complete desire to be filled.